red light?
No.
And here we go. Welcome to the 30th of June, 2020, the 58,000th week of COVID crisis, which is why DPRG is meeting online again virtually. But that allows us to meet from across the globe. We have from New Zealand to Dallas with Pittsburgh in between and who knows where else. So as usual tonight, we'll just go around the table and hear what we've all been doing on robots or wish we were doing because we were distracted by something else and see how it goes. So with that, I'd like to hand off to Jack, Mr. Seven Photons. If you could start us off. Sounds exciting, whatever you're doing.
Well, I've just mainly been working on the competition robot. I'm almost getting to where it's done. Right now I just have a lot of tweaking that I need to do with some of the programming. But it kind of goes through the door right now. And I, during this whole process, I finally got to use the oscilloscope that you guys gave me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and that did help me out a lot with a lot of frustration.
Oh, wow. You figured it out.
Yeah. I'm a little confused. I got the logic analyzer to work, but I couldn't really use it to like decode what it was saying, you know, the pulses. I was wanting it to translate, but I couldn't figure out how to do that. So might be something that I'll need to ask you guys when we meet up again.
Or just share it on the screen. We'll see if we can fumble through and figure it out real time.
Okay.
At some point.
Okay, I'll have to hook everything up again if you guys want to.
I mean, first time tonight, but whenever.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But aside from that, that's about it.
So you said the competition robot, that's not the flyer then, right? It's the other one that's real?
Yeah, it's the 6-can robot.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So is the going through the door similar to going through the soccer goal?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're using LiDAR?
Yeah, I'm going to use that to kind of figure out its orientation and distance from the right wall. So we'll see how that works. It seems to be pretty accurate in tracking it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if yours has a higher update rate. I think the ones that we got that were Neo LiDARs were only about 5 hertz. Does yours go faster than that? Is it like more like 10 hertz or something?
I actually have no idea.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So when I say it's the competition robot, is the 2-reel with the laser cut wood one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Club robot.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That one. Well, there's a couple. That's why I was wondering which one.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Choices out there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I have mine, but I have never gotten it ever to really run.
Oh, really?
I have too many robots that it works. So, yeah,
it's a good problem.
And not always. It's hard to concentrate on one.
I guess the question is, do you have a whole bunch of robots with none of them working, or are they all working, or like one works?
A couple of them works. Over the years, a couple of them works, but then I move on to another robot. So, and that was one of the robots that I didn't really work on much because I managed to jump into another one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've probably seen the Strand Beast one that they had where there was a 6-letter type thing where it would walk. Unfortunately, I don't have it right on me. So next week, I'll actually show you more of it. But I had 3D printed one of those.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's a lot of plastic on those, isn't there?
Yeah, there was a decent amount. But hey, that's what a robot / printer can do for you. You know, you send the file and let it print. But there was like 200 screws or nuts in it. So, yeah, there's a lot of putting the parts because each leg had, let's see, you have 1, 2 cross beam, like about 8 parts to a leg.
Right.
So, yeah.
16 servos, right?
Yeah, right. I had 2 motors, so it was a left and a right. reality was. Yeah, I had the. I'll show you Nesri more in detail. I can semi-describe it, but a picture is 1,000 words. So
yeah. So who's next? Ray, what you doing? How's your lawnmower coming along?
It's pretty good. It actually mows, but it's all manual control. I got I have a pretty good sized metal building, and my wife's dad passed away 2 years ago. So all of he was a machinist, and we had to go through everything, and it just got kind of dumped in the garage. And now the garage has reached critical mass. I can't move around in it without tripping over stuff, and there's just too much junk. So we had to start the purge, and we also moved 12 years ago. So we had taxes from middle 90s, and just so now in fact my wife's over there shredding now all the paper and stuff. So it's been
it's
pretty
sort
much
of
all
when
day.
you got a big mess like that, you have to make another mess to clean up the mess you have to eventually get all the other messes cleaned up.
Yeah, I had to put up shelves for all the books that I probably should have gotten rid of.
So on your mower, so it's right now remote control basically.
No, it's just a well, I put the differential or the hydrostatic transaxle in it. It used to have a 6-speed manual, and now it has a hydrostatic transmission. So it just has a lever, and the center is no movement, and I think pulling it up makes it go forward, and pushing it down makes it go in reverse. And it still still has a clutch and a brake, so if if there's any emergencies, I can still stop the thing. And I did fix the gas leak, so I'm not so worried about that anymore.
Did you have
several parts I had to put on it?
Have
So
you
you're
had
not up in flames, huh?
Yeah, I definitely didn't want to go up in flames in that thing, because it was kind of a steady drip, and the muffler's kind of underneath the thing in the front, and it would drip on the frame and kind of make its way to the muffler, and that's how it caught fire the first time. So
yeah. So have you had a chance to find out if the electric motor is enough to steer it?
Not yet. No, I've been working on some things. I think I'm going to 3D print a bracket to hold the motor next to the to the tube with the threaded rod in it.
Ah, yep.
And I was going to. I've got two basically just XY tables, and I was gonna. I looked into making basically a plasma torch table, but reading about it, it looks like there's, you've got a heck of a noise source. You're basically ripping apart molecules to create the plasma, and a lot of people said they had issues with the controller, just so much noise, with unshielded lines and that kind of stuff. Even with the motors being unshielded, they said that that was the motor wires being unshielded was problematic. It would just make the motors, you just lose control over the thing. So I decided to, forego that, and I was just going to cut a slit by hand using like a wooden guide. The wooden guides burn, but typically you only use them once, so to cut a hole. So I haven't been doing much else besides that. So.
Dave, what's up with you? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't been doing any robot stuff, but my laptop got corrupted, and so I've been rebuilding that. That happens to me every couple of years, and I have to scrape it down to bare metal and build it up again. And that's what I spent the last week doing.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just finished redoing that. I've got a couple laptops. I got a Mac, which is what I'm using here, and then I've also got an HP laptop, which is usually my development laptop, but I haven't been using it for a while just because of lack of time, and I've been putting my time into other things. So I've actually rebuilt it 3 times in the last week, trying different versions of Ubuntu Linux and different this and different that. It's like I'm back to 2018. Actually, I don't like the new Linux. It's just,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
well, I use the GNOME desktop, and it turns out that once again, the programmers at I'm trying to think of the company that puts the Ubuntu out. Anyway, the GNOME programmers decided that they're not going to let us move the icons around on the desktop. It'll auto position them, and there's no way to turn that feature off.
Oh.
Really? Yeah, there's got
Yeah,
to be somewhere, man. There just has to be.
typical stupidity in the developer community in Linux is just there's always some dork out there that decides he's going to push on everybody else his idea of how we should work, and then he does that, and then about 6 months later someone finally fixes that and adds the option so we can actually do what we used to do. It's like
Well, I will tell you, I'll give you an old moment. I was really upset that I did a tar-tvf to do something.
yeah,
Next thing, so I could see the contents of a tar file.
yeah.
And the thing got up before it gave me the contents and bitched at me that says, you don't need to use the minus sign anymore. That's the old way of doing it. Well, okay, maybe it isn't that way, but that's the way I took it. I'm like, why are you bitching about the thing, man? Come on.
Either don't work at all, or just or support legacy. You know.
Yeah, come on, man. You're
Okay.
old.
Is it GNU that does the Linux ports?
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what I thought.
So, well, I guess I can go next. I can get. I'm trying to think how you post URLs into the forum. Is there a way?
Yeah, you just copy and paste, I thought.
Just into the window?
Just into the chat window.
Just into the chat.
Okay, I'm gonna try. I'll just paste right into the chat window then. Does that do anything? No. No, I'm obviously not doing it right.
You open
And
the,
then
you open the
everyone
chat
at the bottom.
I need to get the chat window open. That's the problem.
window. You
How
gotta
do
get
you
the chat window open first.
Here we are. Okay, I'll get. So, okay, that is a blog entry about what I've been doing, but I'll describe it. As some of you know, I've got this plan for a Mecanum robot, and the odometry on a Mecanum robot is a little tricky. So I thought that I'd try a PMW 3901, which is that optical flow sensor, and I'm using the Pimoroni one. So I went ahead and I built a kind of a test rig, and this is described in the blog. But the test rig basically takes the actual sensor. Well, this is actually the carrier board for the sensor. The sensor itself is 6 millimeters square. It's tiny. And that's actually everything. The carrier board is just a carrier board. The whole sensor itself is the actual optical flow sensor. So what I've done is I've put it onto a rig. There's a Raspberry Pi 0W here, and I just wrote a quick Python program to change the color of the LEDs on the 5x5 RGB LED display, depending on whether it was going left or right or forward or back. And that worked. And the idea was I was going to go through this 5-centimeter hole on the robot looking down at the ground. Now, all of this is kind of academic to some degree, because it turns out that after doing this and feeling like I had a success, I had sent a message into the Pimoroni forum, and a guy named Ashley came back and said that he was doing something similar. How had I come along? So I went ahead and posted the URL of this blog entry to him, and he came back and then answered and said that it turns out that Pixart, the company that makes the sensor itself, has an alternative. This one here is designed for drones. There's another one. I'll paste the URL of that one in here. Turns out it's the same form factor. It's 6 millimeters by 6 millimeters by 3 millimeters. And if I could paste that, I'm not very good with getting this stuff fast. Some people seem to be good. There we are. Turns out there's another sensor called a PAA5100JE-Q that is exactly the same as this, but it's designed for work on the ground. And it's actually designed for tile and concrete. It's tuned differently. This one's tuned for flying around. And so I've sent an email to the contact people at Pimoroni, basically pointing at the forum messages from Ashley and I, because he'd done some research on this. I didn't find this thing. But it turns out that they could literally do a plug and play. They could make this board again, change the labeling on it, and put the other sensor on it and make one of these for ground-based robots. And that would be really cool because, of course, my robot doesn't fly. And the sensor, this PA, this alternative sensor would work really, really well for doing an optical flow sensor. And I guess I can't remember what it says, from 15 millimeters up to 35 millimeters off the ground, which is perfect. So I almost thought about buying one of these and seeing if I could unsolder, but there's no way I could unsolder this thing off here and put another one on. It's surface mounted and the actual solder thing is underneath the actual sensor. But I'm kind of jonesing for this other sensor because that would be really cool. We could basically do odometry with an optical sensor hanging under a robot 15 millimeters from the ground, which would be kind of ideal. So that's kind of what I've got to report. Let's see. I've got very little. I've got a new servo for the LiDAR on the front of my robot because the other one burned out and blah, blah, blah. But the real, I guess, news is that if I can get Pimoroni to put another sensor on one of these boards, we'd actually have a really good optical odometry solution.
So effectively, that would be like a mouse then, right?
Yeah, really accurate though, and it can go from 15 millimeters to 35 millimeters, and it gives you, with the Python library, it gives you an XY output, which is pretty good.
Does it deal with rotation?
Well, if you were to actually have this sensor rotate, like the idea and my test was to say, what if I put the circle, like I've got a 5-centimeter circle cut in the bottom of the robot. If you were to actually rotate around, I think if you were to combine the fact that you knew what the motors were doing or supposed to be doing, like you'd said, rotate the robot in place, you could effectively ignore the odometry information coming off the sensor at that point. But even if you didn't ignore it, you could probably interpolate the XY as being a rotation, because I don't know what it would actually do. I mean, I didn't try that to try to interpret the XY. But I'm assuming that since this thing, the only alternative, Dave, to what I've heard that you could do is you could take 2 of these sensors off of like the axis of rotation a certain distance and then basically do a differential between them.
Right.
As they rotated around each other.
Like you were doing odometry.
Yeah. But from my perspective, if I said to the robot, turn in place, I probably don't need to pay attention to the odometry in theory at that point. If it's doing some kind of an arced curve, I think the thing would still work fine.
Well, the problem that, as you know, I'm not an expert on this, just taking it from what I've heard other people say, is the problem is that the robot has drift in it. And the primary problem with drift isn't so much distance as angle.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get an angle just slightly wrong and it screws everything up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're basing it all on imaging, so it should be able to, with the image, do the calculation, right?
Well, it only returns it just returns an XY value.
You may not be tuned up to do angles. Only X and Y.
True.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't answer that. I mean, I would think that if you had an X and Y values coming off the sensor, I mean, actually, I could test it. I do have a rig. I'd have to make sure I rotated exactly around the center and that the actual optical center of the sensor was at the center, which would be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah.
My suspicion is that I think just like with mice, you really can't tell if you turn the mouse.
Right.
I'll have to try that sometime. I never really thought about that.
It didn't seem to translate right. Just rotating it in place, you got the X and the Y vary quite a bit, and I was trying to hold it like pretty much, at the center of the sensor. And
yeah, I'm doing that right now with my Macintosh optical mouse, and if you're really, really careful, you can get it to not move much, but that's pretty tricky.
Yeah.
In any case, so Harold, we haven't heard from you yet.
No, you have not. Other than me blurting in and overstepping people, trying to be funny and missing wildly with that most of the time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I don't really have any good robot news necessarily, but I do have some stupid Herald news about my robot. I've been fighting trying to get ROS installed and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Well, some of it I found some issues with it, and I've got some notes, and I need to go update the pages. The most notable one was that the last one that just kicked me was my own fault, because I thought, okay, I'm doing this on my robot. I want to do a binary install. It says it's supposed to work. I got a clean Latte Panda. Let's see if it's supposed to work. And I got through a whole bunch of stuff, and it didn't work. Like, okay. I got to looking, and the reason it doesn't work is because they hard-coded a lot of these startup scripts use Python to do the startup. The shell scripts are launch scripts to launch all the nodes and do the things. Well, I looked at the script, and it's hard-coded to a very specific path to Python, and it's a Python_d.exe. So it's the debug version of Python. So I'm like, oh, well, I did my chocolatey install, which doesn't give me that. Let me go find that debug version of Python, so I can go install that and make everything happy. I did some symbolic links, did a whole bunch of other things. Then one day when I was driving, I say not driving down the road, in the shower, doing something where I wasn't going to get up and come back in here and try it, I'm like, well, I did download the debug release of binary they gave me. So that makes a little sense. So what if I do the non one, just the straight up release, no debug? And I did that, put it in place, did all the stuff that they told me to do, and guess what? It works. Works perfect. Exactly the way it's supposed to work. But the problem I have with it, though, is that I want to. There's no note. I've got to go, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm taking it on myself. I'm going to go put a note in here that says, if you do this, you need to go find the debug version of Python, which is not available from any known source I can, unless you want to build it yourself and install all that crap yourself. Because I cannot find a Windows 10 release of Python in a debug state that gets me a Python_d.exe. Now, if you go build it from source, I'm sure that I can make that happen. Let's just say I'm not doing that. I got better things to do to fight through, to go on, right? And so,
now, Harold, question. I'm not sure exactly why you're doing it in Windows. Could you run that whole thing inside of a Linux VM?
Yeah, I could. I could do that. But here's the deal. I've got a Latte Panda, which it doesn't have a whole lot of memory on it to begin with. So if I start doing VMs or Docker containers on it or whatever else on thing, I think I'm not doing the right thing. Also, I happen to be a Microsoft MVP as of right now. Tomorrow I may not be, but today I am. And so I'm trying to go stuff down to the Microsoft way and do the Microsoft way and play with all their cognitive services thing. Although that, as I preach, Microsoft doesn't care what operating system you use. If you can make an HTTP call, you can use their stuff, right? And I can do that very well. It just is supposed to work, and I'm supposed to be an MVP, so I want to make it work. And then when I get on there, like, let's make it work, and if for whatever reason, and it does work, it just that I'm sort of part of it is me being stupid, not understanding the ecosystem that's with all the things. And so I've learned a lot.
I wasn't suggesting running a VM on the Latte Panda, but what you could do basically is create just a throwaway VM just to load our ROS onto it and basically try it out on the VM, and then if it works, then try it on the Panda.
Yeah, sure. In fact, I did that on I've got my donkey car laying around, and I managed to find a couple of guys with some. One person out of all of YouTube has a donkey car, put ROS on it, and made it work under ROS to be able to drive it around. And what he does is he fires up a node on his laptop, communicating with the ROS brain in the computer, and using the keyboard up, back, left, and right AWS cluster kind of keys, because it's just a console app as you're typing. He's able to then make it move in any direction that he wants to, which I think is a fantastic example of hey, it's working, and so I'm going to do that report. And it's using Linux on the Raspberry Pi 3. And as much as I like Windows 10 IoT Core, It's not what most people want it to be. And if you're running a Raspberry Pi, just put Linux on it and do everything with the Linux.
Sure.
I mean, because there's especially when it comes to the Pi 4, there is a Skunkworks Windows 10 IoT core out there, but the USB ports don't work and the Wi-Fi doesn't really work. And guess what? That hadn't worked in a couple of years now since they introduced a whole bunch of new things. And it's just not going. They're not going to put any more resources because they've all the engineering team has moved off into the NXP stuff and a bunch of those sorts of things, and are focusing all their stuff on there because that's more what industry doesn't. I know I'm going to say this, and people do this. You shouldn't be putting Raspberry Pi in production boxes. You just shouldn't. But people do it all the time. That's fine. But where Microsoft has gone with, or at least their hardware engineering folks, they've gone to do more of an industry thing, and the industry is got hardened up NXP SoCs and all that sort of stuff, and so that's where they're focusing all their stuff on. And so they're just not going to spend the resources to go make that happen, especially when the Raspberry Foundation won't give them something called a BSP, which is a board support package, and that's a significant amount of stuff to build up. And what that really is I take the core from Windows, whatever that is. I take the BSP package, which is simply a bunch of drivers, and this core from Windows knows how to, and that BSP has an interface for those drivers, and you're able to run a few commands, and to build on your own Windows image out of those two, which you can do it. Anybody here can do it. If you've got a BSP for a board, you can go get the Windows core package and slam them together and make your own image for your box. But it's not exactly straightforward to do, and if the manufacturer doesn't give you that BSP, you're just kind of SOL on that deal. So, yeah.
Yeah, enough acronyms, right?
Yeah, I can throw a lot more at them too, right? I can throw a lot more at them. But anyway, that's the other thing that I've been doing was working through some AI stuff with the cognitive services. And there's not really robots, but it's actually kind of neat because I know you guys do more than just robots. The story is my boss was I'm banging away. He walks up to me on Monday morning. Hey, I was banging away on our database because I want to get at the SQL, and I think I clicked something wrong because I went and searched invoices after I did that, and we don't have any. What do you mean you don't have any? You don't have any. You're supposed to have like a couple 100,000 of them. No, we don't got any. I'm like, okay.
Well, there's only two possibilities there.
I said, then you go, where's the backup? So we were showing the backup. Well, that was a little expensive, so I didn't really pay for that kind of backup. It doesn't. We back up other things. We don't really back that up. Okay, but all's not lost. We have every one of those in a PDF on this hard drive over here, and we do back that up. Okay, so I got the PDF, and I got a database where I need to stuff stuff in the database, and I got a couple 100,000 of them, or say 10 gigs worth. That's not a simple problem, right? Because you're doing OCR and scanning and all those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. Well, they have a new product out here called Form Recognizer, and combination of training up a model and using something called Knowledge Store. It does a really, really good job. I could feed it 5 PDFs of the same invoice that I care about scanning, and that's sufficient enough for it to get something like 90% accuracy on the thing and pop it through there. And so I'm working through a workshop, and I don't know if it's just me. I could be stupid. I've been stupid in the past. I'll be stupid in the future, I'm sure. I could be being stupid now. But I'm working through the workshop, and I'm having to fix. This is coming from the people who know what they're talking about. Literally, there's the people that are made the workshop are talking to the Microsoft product people that do this. I'm using their stuff that they have to say go do, and it does not work. I'm having to go do more research because things have changed so much that now I've got to go, because this Azure stuff changes pretty quick.
Harold, I have a question. Are those PDFs images of the invoices, or are they actually PDFs that have content in them?
They're actual PDFs that have content in them. Because
there are libraries in Java and in Python and a few other languages for actually converting that out to like CSV or
No, you're right.
Because at 90% scan, you're going to lose data, and if it's actually numeric data on an invoice, that would be problematic.
When I said 90%, that's just my guess. I think in a PDF situation, it's probably 100%. Because what I forgot to tell you, but I didn't get to tell you, is this thing takes JPEGs, PNGs, any way you can get this thing an image, it'll scan it and then give you key value pairs to the point where you can get up and say, oh, this is the name, this is the address, and this is the invoice, and this is the invoice data items in it. So you can rip those out and shove them into a data store, and that's all. That's that's using like a dozen Azure services to make this happen. But it is possible to make it now. I'm a shield for Microsoft, right? But
all because one guy pushed a button the wrong way, right?
Yeah, one guy pushed the button the wrong way, right? And so,
did you ever find out who that was?
It's kind of made up, but not made up, right? The story's kind of made up because if you're really in business for doing that, you've got other safeguards in place. But it's just kind of a funny story to tell when you're giving out a narrative for people. Yeah. And and the other way to do it, the other way to do this is hire a bunch of fivers, and to freelancers, and to start typing all that in. That's going to take forever. I know I'm not typing it in, and I don't really want to do. That's just some boring work. Who wants to do that? And there's ways to use artificial intelligence right now to help you do that job in seconds instead of maybe never.
Yeah, I have actually a little bit of history, a story actually, because I worked briefly at NASA headquarters and then out in West Virginia at the National Technology Transfer Center, and Carnegie Mellon did a lot of work in AI, and particularly AI kind of imaging, and they had done a lot of pioneering work, and then NASA basically hired them. What had happened was, as you may know, that NASA, before it was a space agency, was the aeronautics agency, and they had been they never threw anything out. They kept all of their paper documentation all the way back in their entire history, and it was in a warehouse. And what they did was in order to preserve it, they took it out of the cabinets and everything and started to palletize it and put plastic over the pallets. And so the story is that at one point when they had gotten this library of scanning software and scanners and everything from Carnegie Mellon, they could take a pallet with the plastic on it, and basically a person would walk up to this thing with a cutter and start cutting off blocks of of these stacks of pages, which didn't have beginnings and ends. It was literally just stacks of paper. They didn't know where the documents began and ended, and they could drop big handfuls of these papers onto a processor that would basically take each page and drop it into a scanner, and they would scan. This is miles and miles of documentation. Yeah. And the Carnegie Mellon processor could actually figure out from what was in the documents what was the beginning and end, and actually turn each of these scans into separate documents and put it into a database. And so NASA basically took all of its previous documentation going back to like the 40s or 50s or whenever, and managed to digitize all of it, which is awesome. Like the mid 90s. Yeah. And so, we've, the kind of technology that can do scanning and image processing, building data libraries from paper, been around for a while, and I'm sure it's gotten better since then, but you think about how much it would be, it's astounding.
Yeah, kind of where I take this, Murray, is that I know this has been around, but much like the 3D printing and the robots we're doing and all the other technology and your imaging that you're doing with that Pixar camera, doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, most of this has been around a very long time, but now this is made it so that us mere mortals can go down there and do a couple of things and then use all of it.
Oh, sure.
Easy to use, and that's what I'm trying to convey to others. No one really wants to sit around and process PDF form, and that's just all there is to it. They just don't want to do it. But if you got to do it, there's easier ways to do it now, and you can use all this technology we've been building up over however long.
Oh yeah,
and use all these smarts. Well,
that kind of gets back to that idea of having a optical flow sensor that's 6 millimeters square, LiDAR that's the size of a grain of rice. I mean, it's pretty amazing stuff. We buy this for the cost of an Indian restaurant meal kind of thing,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff, and that's. I can't decide. I have a hard time deciding whether I was born too early or too late. And then I come to the conclusion I think I was born at probably, I guess, the right time, because this is with the exception of the other junk that's going on in the real world, the stuff that I care about, Mountain League Tech and all that kind of stuff, very interesting times, and and lots of possibilities. You know, at my fingertips, and for $20, I can get one of the best pieces of coolest magic things ever. You know, delivered to my doorstep in a couple of days. That's just fantastic.
Yeah. So, John.
Okay.
What's going on?
Do we want to ask Ponder some more first, and then go to me?
Oh, well, I think that you're the last one. I think that Kareem.
I see a Ponder some more there. I don't know if you see another person. There's Ponder.
That's Kareem, and he said he's here just to observe.
Ah, okay, that's the answer. Okay, in that case, I will show you the robot. So what you will know is,
oh my gosh.
Now I have a hinge on the front, so, and I have the wires all nicely plugged in now. So what I can do, I'll show you how you get to the battery now. So what you can do is
look at his belly button.
So there's the battery in there. So you see,
yeah. You talked
so the
about
battery
that.
can put, so that's in it. There, I have a hinge, so I can get to the battery when I need to.
That's great.
So
we all need a hinge on our neck.
Hey, it works. And I have all the wires plugged in. I'm debating whether to have them all top for the wires, add a couple more wires to get, a nice little head thing going on, or else put a cover over the top. Because there's a file I found that I could print a hat, a cowboy hat on top if I wanted to, but I'm debating on that. So, so the next step is writing. So next step is to write code for it, but now, I have the battery in. So right now I wrote the code for moving the foot.
He's wiggling his toes.
So if it's on a table, you would see
he's tapping his
that number. So it would be tapping the foot.
Yeah, he's listening to music, right?
Yeah, Merle Haggard.
So the next step is now to create functions, for movement for the arms and that.
Yep.
So I was just at the starting phase of that to have, move the arm 90 degrees or whatever function that I could build a box.
Yep.
It's not too far from foot tapping to butt scratching. So,
Well, it can't reach that far back. Remember, it has limits. Right now, it can only go this far back.
Okay, back scratching.
So, it can do the head thing.
The head, See, that does look like a little crop of hair there. Right on the top of his head.
So,
box.
So that's why I was up to this week. As I said, the next step is, debate, do I go with a hat or not on the top? But that'll take a while to print.
Just leave the man bun up there.
You like that? Okay. Well, that way I can get to the wires better, yes.
And man buns are trending,
Hey, that's what I thought. So that's why I sort of like that in ways.
Jack is disagreeing.
No, it's trending, but unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
That'll kind of add to his swagger. His wires will be swaying as he moves.
Right. I could put lights
trending
up there.
in New Zealand,
I could put lights up there. I don't know if you remember Lawson's Place, where they had the robot, where they had the lights on the top and that.
Oh, Lost in Space, yes. Yeah.
We had the real lights on the top where it would flash around.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah.
Danger. Yeah.
Well, I haven't. I do have a voice box shield, which probably too much glare. But anyway, I have it was from SparFund. I have never really took out of the box, so I may play with that next week. So I may be able to get it to speak and that. So we'll see.
We're seeing.
Going through a bunch of documentation, and I came across some stuff for like text-to-speech chips that were probably back in the middle '80s.
Yeah. So you can spell.
I think that's what they were used in. But the documentation for those, like I don't know where the chips went, but You know, it's like, okay, look at that. I got the instruction manual for it.
I haven't really looked because you're right. That TI had that speak and spell thing that for kids where you could type and that. They should
Yeah.
have.
And it's all in one chip too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I was
Okay,
wondering if.
But by the way, that speak and spell, that was the basis of Hawking's voice box.
That's
Stephen
what I was
Hawking.
going to say, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And he
Yeah,
liked it so much, it was his thing that he never gave it up. So when it came time to refresh it, he apparently had to find some people to like reverse engineer it, or the original engineers, I forget, but there's a whole
He
story
wanted
around
his
that.
way,
That he,
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking was the TI speak and spell.
Yeah. I actually have a question. It's a technical question. I've had 2 attempts now at putting a speaker on my Raspberry Pi. And so I had one which is a little Adafruit board amplifier, and another one which is a built-in speaker and amplifier, both brand new, plugged into Raspberry Pi. The problem I'm having is that both of them, when you just turn them on without even playing an MP3 to them, there's just a really high level of tick-a-tick-a-tick-a-tick, you know, like a machine noise. And I've tried shielding it. I've tried anything. Has anybody ever tried to plug in a speaker to a Raspberry Pi on a robot that's got lots of sensors and things? Because I can't even get a speaker on it. It's just loud ticking noises.
Ticking.
Well, it's just machine noise.
Okay, we haven't
Yeah.
tried it, so but I love EMC challenges, and that's what this sounds like.
Yeah.
Electromagnetic compatibility. So
Yeah.
can you describe how have you hooked it up? Like to digital output pins or something?
Well, no, the Raspberry Pi has that headphone output. And so I basically took a headphone output, you know, a headphone cable, cut it. I actually took a woven copper shielding off of a coaxial cable and tried shielding it to see if that made no difference. I think there's so much electrical noise on the Pi and the power supply and everything that simply plugging the speaker, you know, and the amplifier into the Pi, I just get this, you know, like maybe, I don't know what frequency it would be, but it's basically a square wave noise. Pretty loud.
So the speaker. So tell me about the speaker. Is it just a raw speaker, or is it a?
Yeah, I was going to say it could be the speaker.
No, it's
Bose
actually a
compatible.
very high quality speaker. I can't remember the brand name, but this is we got the spec sheet for it. It's an 8 ohm speaker, very high quality.
Okay, well that's the problem right there. That's your problem, at least partly. So it's an 8 ohm speaker, right? So if you hold it up again.
He says 8 ohms. How many watts?
8 ohm speaker. So the headphone jack will not be able to drive that.
Oh no, I have an amplifier. I have an amplifier. Yeah, it's an Adafruit amplifier, 2.5 watt Adafruit little board. And so what I'm doing is and it has a minus and a plus input. So I power the board up, take the minus and plus input off of the headphone jack, and there's a little tiny potentiometer on the thing for volume. And then I plug the speaker into the amplifier, and that's all I'm doing. And yet, both that one and the other board I have, which is one of those little oval speakers that I think either Pimoroni or Adafruit sells, same sound. It's just on my KRO-1, my main robot, the noise is just way too loud.
Okay, so you got it sounds like a common mode rejection. I mean, you got a straight EMC problem, I'd say. So you got to isolate the issue. So first of all, take regular headphones into the Pi, and do they sound okay?
I haven't tried. Good point.
Regular headphones into the Pi, play an MP3, see if that's okay, and then the other way around, take your both your amplifiers and your high quality speaker, and jack that into your Android phone or your iPhone, and see if it's okay that way.
Yeah.
Because that'll tell you whether you have just a fundamental levels and impedance problem, or whether you have an amplifier can't reject the common mode noise problem.
Okay. I will test it, Carl, I promise. But my suspicion is that the amplifier with a Raspberry Pi, with let's say an iPod playing in, probably sounds fine. And I'm guessing that when I plug my headphones into my Pi, it probably sounds fine. It's probably only when I've got the thing on the robot that's happening.
Now, okay, then the other related to that is, how are you powering the amplifiers? From where do they get their power?
Off the robot. I've got two Pololu 5. No, actually, now I've switched it over to Bex. I can't remember the model number, but I've got two 5-volt power supplies that are coming off of my battery.
Okay, so the third test you could do is to power the speaker amplifiers from a separate just get a nice clean battery, nice DC battery fed thing, power the amplifier from that, and let the only connection to the Pi be the ground and the signal.
Okay, that's a good idea. I'm kind of in that, like maybe a 9-volt or something like that.
Yeah,
well, I can't remember what the voltage on the amp is, but yeah, something
like that. A couple of 3.7 LiPos, whatever it takes, but something clean.
Yeah. I kind of like that idea the best because I have a sneaking suspicion that the Pi itself probably is putting fine output through the headphone. Yeah. Okay, that's 3 options. So that's cool.
3 options.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll do
you got impedance mismatch issues too, because there's part of what's going on is that like I think on the and this is the difference if you go to like studio sound or like stage sound, they have these kind of so-called DI boxes, but basically the headphone jack output is a high impedance. I think it's like 200 or 600 ohms impedance.
Right. Yeah.
It
And
line out.
It sends the signal in the form of a varying voltage. Okay.
Right.
But if you have like a guitar or a traditional microphone, the so-called low impedance things,
1 millivolt. Well, it's a line output's 1 millivolt peak to peak, right?
No. Well, but in actuality, the signal is carried as a varying current.
Oh, okay.
So one is a Thevenin equivalent, one is a Norton equivalent. And the thing is that when you have this is why you have noise problems so many times, is when you have a 600 ohm headphone jack out, okay, and that's when you try and get that line really long, it'll pick up your cell phone and such. It's because it doesn't take much current across 600 ohms to make a voltage that you hear as a sound.
Oh, yeah.
But when you have a low impedance thing, like when it's ohms, right? If it's only, think about if it's your speaker, if it's only a couple ohms, 8 ohms, how much voltage does it take to produce enough current to make a sound? So the signal inducted from like a GSM radio or something is much more likely to get coupled in as noise on a voltage, a Thevenin equivalent like a headphone jack, than it is in a Norton equivalent like a line out.
Right.
So fundamentally, you need to figure out I'm telling you, the headphone jack is the Thevenin equivalent. It's a voltage signal. And depending on what amplifier you bought, maybe it wants a voltage, maybe it wants a current, but you got to.
I think it wants I think it wants probably a line input, like 1 millivolt peak to peak.
Yeah.
But but how do you get audio off of a Raspberry Pi otherwise?
What? I mean, it's
Bluetooth.
I mean, I got
a Bluetooth. I mean, what I'm sort of planning on my little robot guy is, okay, advertisement coming, just letting you know. This is Bluetooth. And I was going to make it's a speaker and a microphone and the whole works. Another reason I wanted to put Windows as the brain, because this will just plug right in and use this device. And I got Bluetooth running around everywhere anyway.
Yeah, so, but I don't want to create yet another source of EMF. I'm trying to do something really tiny. Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
If you think about it, this speaker is like about an inch square, and the amplifier for it's 2.5 watts, and it's less than an inch square. Yeah, the whole thing would fit on my robot and take up almost no space. That was kind of the idea.
Yeah, I got you.
Do you have other noise sources in that room? Like,
No, I think the robot would be the noisiest thing in the room by far.
Oh, it would. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I'd be curious to take it in another room and see if it goes away.
Well, no, I think I've got an I2C bus with 12 sensors and a display and an ultrasonic sensor and 2 servos, and there's plenty of noise. Yeah. All right. Well, I got 3 options from Carl. I'll give those 3 a try and come back next time. So
yeah, that'll be fun.
Audio range,
you'll sort it out.
I wonder if it could be a beat frequency of 2 higher frequency sources, maybe.
Could be something like that. Very constant and quite loud. It's actually louder because the idea I had was I remember that one of David Anderson's robots was beeping and making all these noises. So I actually wrote a Python library for my robot and then went to the trouble of creating a whole bunch of MP3s for all sorts of beeps and noises. I even had like the sonar noise from a submarine and all that stuff. And the idea was I was going to play that so I could tell what the robot was doing using sound. And that was kind of David's idea. But like I said, the first time I plugged that thing in, it was like, I can't. It's horrible.
Those 3 tests will isolate it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Then comes the question of what to do about it, but that'll narrow it down for you.
Well, I like your. I mean, I'll either have to basically come up with some way to get sound off the Raspberry Pi, maybe using an MP3 player or something like that that actually gives me a line out. Because I don't want to. You can't do it off a GPIO pin or something like that. I mean, that'd be silly.
It worked for Apple or Commodore, was it? I don't know. One of them.
Yeah.
IBM PC, right?
Yeah.
The
Well,
speaker can be on or off, and if you do it fast enough, you can.
You can do anything. Yeah.
No.
I just want to play MP3s, just like having it go beep 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 or whatever. But yeah, I don't want to go
You're all right.
I did that by taking wave, 8-bit wave, and feeding it into a duty cycle.
Yeah.
And getting sound out.
Yeah, you could do it, but the thing is, I've got MP3, relatively high quality MP3s, and it would be a shame to try to funnel a high quality MP3 through a square wave. So.
Well, I think you should go to that one thing that's on Hackster or whatever, or Hackaday, where they had about 100 disk drives, and played Star Wars. And every time the things moved at different speeds and rates, they made different sounds. So they made a speaker out of 100 disk drives, 100 floppy disk drives.
That sounds cool.
It did. It was.
Yeah,
It was a certain kind of fidelity.
Really cool on that.
Yeah.
It sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Well,
about.
it's going to happen. I can't even imagine trying to get 100 hard drives running in my place,
The lights would dim.
Yeah. Well, actually, my next door neighbor, one of the local in New Zealand, they call junior high and high school a college, actually, and here it's university and college. And so one of the local colleges was giving away their piano. They had an old upright piano, and my next door neighbor is he grabs any bit of wood he can. So he grabbed the piano because he wanted the wood, but he was going to throw away the whole guts of it, the harp. And it was sitting out leaning against his garage, like in the rain. And I said, Peter. And so I have gone ahead and taken that piano, which, of course, Peter and I could barely lift into, and I put it on a frame I built out of 2x4s and painted black and put wheels on it. So in my hallway is a piano harp, and I can actually play it with my fingers and stuff. And it's one of those most bizarre things, because it turns out that, as you may know, maybe I'll back up a second. There's a violinist who plays a double-necked violin, but he only plays one of the necks because the other neck vibrates in sympathy to the other. So if you play a A, the other one will vibrate. So the piano does the same thing. So when my band is playing in my lounge, if I plug the piano in, I've got a contact mic on the soundboard and a couple of mics aiming at the piano. So I get three signals off the piano, and I can basically put that in and record it, and it acts like a giant microphone. It's the most bizarre sound coming off of it, too. So I'm reusing a whole piano as a microphone.
So let's take that a bit further. So somewhere I read a few years back, some universities, I guess they have too much time in universities, but they took some ancient, like 2,000-year-old Egyptian pottery. And how do you make pottery, right? You put it on a wheel and it turns.
Yeah.
So what they did was they went and they said, well, that looks like a record. It looks like a cylinder box that Edison made out of pottery and clay. So they went and they put a pickup on this thing and they spun it around, and they tried to listen to the sound that was recorded when they were making the pottery.
What?
I forget the result of it. Maybe it was an April Fool's thing, but anyhow.
No, I remember seeing that article, and you're right. Yeah,
And
there
it
was
must
some
be over
that got sound.
Isn't that back in the days of quadraphonic when they had that pottery?
Excellent, yeah. Quadraphonic sound. Pottery
Four
sound.
pots? 4 pots?
I think it was Egyptian Elvis, wasn't it?
8-track.
Yeah. I can remember sitting in my uncle's half-ton truck in rural Alberta, listening to an 8-track with "Yummy, Yummy, Yummy, I Got Love on My Tummy." Do you remember that song?
Yes.
Thankfully,
On an
no.
8-track. It's like 1974. It's like, oh
Okay.
God. I went back and found that song. I can't remember the name of the band, but it's everything that band did was embarrassing. It was just terrible.
Was that the same band that did Disco Duck?
No, that was that was like a guy that was a comic that did funny music. These guys were not trying to be funny. Another one of the songs was Chewy, Chewy, Chewy. Chewy, Chewy, Chewy. I got. They're all. It's just. They called it bubblegum music, right?
I guess you did the chewy, chewy, chewy before you did the yummy in your tummy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Band was called the Ohio Express. A bunch of white guys, actually, surprisingly. It's not the other. What's the other Ohio? What was that one? A bunch of black guys in the 70s. It was Ohio something. They a huge band. This is not them. This is a bunch of white guys doing bubblegum music. Yummy, yummy. 1968 apparently is when the song came out. Anyway. Jack, you're lucky you weren't born back then. You avoided a lot of pain.
Sounds like it.
For those on YouTube, just don't.
So Corinne posted a link up into the chat, and basically we have 8 tracks now. It just so happens it's 8-to-1 I2C multiplexer. I saw this come up on Adafruit, their new news. I guess it was in the last few weeks, and I'm like, well, there you go.
Well, I'm not going back to 8 tracks, believe me.
Yeah,
Jack, if you don't know what an 8-track is, it was actually a loop on a cassette. The cassette was about that big, and it had a 4-track tape that ran in a kind of a spool onto another one, and it would literally be a continuous loop, and you had a button on the front of the player that could change between the 4 tracks, and because it was called an 8-track, it was actually 4 stereo pairs. And I can't remember how much they could hold, but like about an album's worth of music. Yeah, and the quality was pretty dismal, but you could, you had an 8-track deck in your truck or your car, and you just shove one of these things in, it would go ka-chunk and start playing music, and it would just play forever. It would never stop.
They mimic the rail tracks that the radio stations would use, because a lot of them don't play records, they play these carts. And I think this is the retail version of it. The problem, and they weren't very good sounding, and 2, they never got, they only would ever sound worse every time you played them, because as it would spool off the side, it would run back into the inside of the track, and all that friction would be wedged down into the track, or no, it'd pull off the inside. Yeah, it'd pull off the inside, run around, and then spool up on the outside, so it was a continuous loop, like Murray was saying. Right. But all of this friction as it's pulling it out, it's rust, basically. It's metal oxide of some sort on it, and every time that it went through that whole loop through pull, a little of that rust came off. Yeah. It eventually you couldn't hear nothing.
Yeah, but if you're in a 1/4-ton pickup trunk driving on a bumpy road, you don't hear it
anyway.
No, you don't hear it
loud.
Is it kind of like a continuous DVR?
Yeah. Yeah. But basically, the problem was that the tape was stretched too, because heat.
Well, yep, because you're pulling
it. Had a stretching problem.
No one ever listened to classical music on this. It was like Bachman Turner Overdrive and the Ohio Express and
and Ghost Riders in the Sky. Yeah, that's what Dad listened to.
Yeah.
That was technology back then. Then you went to cassette, and then from there to CD, and now we're into memory chips. So yes.
In fact, one of the things I was trying to do is bring music into my new office, and we've got rules against it because we're not allowed to bring music we can't prove that we own. So you have to show the CD that you've got. And I had to point out that I buy CDs now and then, but actually I'm mostly downloading off Bandcamp, and I'm paying for the music, but I can't prove it. I guess I could show the emails, but
there you go.
We've long ago got past the point where there's physical media for the distribution of music. I mean, no one does that anymore. LPs are popular again for retro, but most people don't have physical media anymore. And that's actually kind of good because it means we're not creating so much plastic. But we're now into the ethereal world of electrons for our distribution. So anyway.
Yeah, the even like the reel-to-reel decks, they used to have quite a bit of hiss, and there were different techniques to try to get rid of the hiss, but it was really, maybe attenuated, but still there. So if you turned it up too loud, that's what you heard was like.
Yeah. Well, that's Dolby and all that stuff comes out of that. Yeah.
Right. To try to reduce it.
Yeah. Basically, what you do is you amplify it really loud, and cut and do a filter, and then take it back down again, and the noise floor drops out in the bottom. And it works okay, but just like in any kind of compression or processing like that, you end up introducing anomalies into the sound. And so I can't claim that I've been a professional sound engineer, but I've mixed lots of bands and I've done a ton of sound processing, and I can hear with my ear that kind of thing now just from practice. And I can tell, I have to say that an LP actually is a lot better, apart from the scratches and sound on the LP itself, but the quality of a dynamic sound of an LP is so much better than a CD or any kind of digitized sound, simply because any kind of digitization introduces stuff to the sound. And an LP is pretty accurate, actually. It's a full dynamic range. But here I'm just going blah, 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 blah. But it's,
the first time
I'm thinking about buying a record player again.
So
successive times the record used to wear out.
So you have all that, CD is the way you've broken it down, and their WAV files. And then we come along with those MP3s that took all those WAV files that were really full on bandwidth as much as they could jam into them, and literally threw 90% of it away. And most people can't tell.
Most people are listening through tiny headphones, or earbuds. But actually, you can do MP3s with no compression, but the FLAC files are even better than that. But yeah, we're not generally listening through big speakers like we used to in the 70s and 80s. Like, I had a boss once who had like those big tower speakers about 6 feet tall, and he basically had gone out and he had one of those $3,000 or $4,000 turntables, gold plated and all this, and he just bought a new house. This is in Sacramento. And he bought a new house, got it all set up, and he knew I did a lot of sound stuff. And he said, "Murray, what's going wrong? I've got, $10,000 worth of stuff here, and it sounds like crap." And so I went over to his house and he offered to have me come over for dinner and listen. And I listened, and it was like within seconds, it was easy to tell. I said, "Jerry, listen to what you're hearing. What do you hear?" And he goes, "Well, I hear a lot of noise." And I said, "Why do you think that is?" And I pointed out that those speakers were sitting on a very shiny wood floor. So what you're hearing is the speaker and the sound of the wood floor and the sound of the reflection off the wall, all coming in milliseconds different. Yeah. And what does Jerry do? He goes out and buys some really, really expensive Indian carpets to put in front of the speakers. Totally fixed it, but he couldn't just do it with some cheap carpets. He had to go out and buy some expensive carpets. Oh yeah. So you're looking at these expensive, like $2,000, $3,000 Indian carpets in front of the $10,000 speakers. Yeah.
Were they
nice guy.
I think Feel was they made, I don't know, like a speaker that was 6 foot tall.
Oh, these are the ribbon speakers. They actually use little aluminum ribbons all the way down. They get bigger towards the bottom.
Yeah, was it Martin Logan? Is that what they were called?
I couldn't remember. It's a long time ago. Yeah. This is like 1989.
Okay, yeah, it was probably then.
In other words, I had probably 3 different speakers. One time I had, the 15 inches, the 8, and a treater.
Yeah.
Pine. So yeah.
Well, and I think the thing is that most people nowadays, I would say probably 90-some-odd% of the people nowadays have never actually heard high fidelity. They don't have any idea that you could actually sit there in a room and hear what sounds like a classical orchestra right in front of you. It's not an experience most people have anymore. Because, like, I went down to a shop here in Wellington, New Zealand, and tried to find anything like that. And of course, it's twice as much money here as it would be. And the guys selling it don't even know what they're selling. It's kind of beyond. We've got to the point where earbuds and headphones and small, bookshelf speakers is what we think of as high fidelity. People simply don't know.
People think this is good quality.
Yeah, exactly. You're right on there. That's it right now. An empty
and things like this, right? The battery charge thing you keep around, the taps, whatever else, the JBL kind of thing. They think this is good quality and good sounding stuff, and well, it sounds all right, but it's not what you
can hear the lyrics.
Usually.
Yeah. Well, I think
if you listen to
Straight
it loud enough,
robot.
get a small set of amplifiers and speakers that you can shove in your ears later in life. Oh, hearing aids.
Oh, yeah.
I can't really stand those earbuds. I try to use them. Almost every person I work with and do with, we're sitting in an office and they got the earbuds and stuff in. I've got to get over the ear headphones to even stand it for that long. And although I started seeing these things, I don't know how well they'll do, and I don't know how good how they're going to work for me. Is those bone inductors? Anybody ever use any of those bone inductors headphones?
No.
They clip just like
I know what you're talking about, but no, I haven't.
It would be.
You just have to drill a hole into your skull and put a screw in there.
Yeah.
Well, they hit you right here on the thing. Nothing goes inside. They just get, and they're supposed to be magnetic inductors or some kind of inductors so your bone resonates and you just hear it.
Have you tried them yet, Harold?
I've not tried them.
I would not recommend the $20 ones. I tried those and they're not that good.
Okay.
As you might guess.
The $20 bone inductors.
That's right.
I'm
Throw
thinking
them off your head.
get what you pay
my
for
God,
without a doubt kind of situation.
But I think the high-end ones. I mean, isn't what they use in helicopters and some military things, because they can couple the sound into your head without all the noise.
And they use those throat mics too, where they're picking up vibrations of your vocal cords as opposed to you actually have to auditorily throw some stuff out at a large volume. Because when you're being discreet, you don't need to be yelling into a mic going, "Can you hear me now?" It's not
You can actually talk with your mouth closed.
Yeah.
God.
All righty. Well, how are we doing here? We run the course of things pretty much. Or?
Yeah.
I think so.
I wonder where Dag went. He was here for a little while and decided to bug out and went somewhere. I pinged him elsewhere.
I think I scared him off. I started talking and he bailed.
Well, I mean, he usually has interesting things to talk about. He's an interesting person.
Hey, would you guys mind looking at my logic analyzer software real quick?
Do you have it ready?
Yeah, I've got it ready.
Ooh. Can you share your screen?
I thought for
That
most
way
of them,
All right, there we
if you were
go.
looking at an ice
Oh.
Real buddy things.
or if you're looking at serial, your software
Can you
would
guys? Oh, sorry.
pick it out.
You can see that. Yep.
That's 1 or 0, isn't it?
So I've got it hooked up right now to the onboard thing. I don't know what you call that, where you just get a continuous wave.
Oh, the PWM?
Yeah, on the
no,
logic analyzer itself.
The launch. Okay, yes. So this is a USB oscilloscope logic analyzer that some of the club guys got for Jack for graduation, and it has that's a calibration signal, I think. Normally, Normally you use it to get the time and the voltage and the DC offset normalized for your oscilloscope. But as you can see, it works also for here.
So I'm not sure if I'm missing anything, but I've looked all through here and I can't seem to figure out if there's any way to translate it.
Well, I'm sorry, but what are you trying to? If it's the calibration signal,
well, I mean, I've assuming that it was saying anything, you
Like
know.
See or SPI signal? Or
Yeah, like I was trying to hook it up to my Arduino to see what it was saying, and but I couldn't find anything in here. So I downloaded this other app that for a different logic analyzer. I'll pull it up real quick. And that, so this one, I think you guys have seen this one. It's
Bailey,
the and it would work for the, it would connect to it, but it wouldn't read anything. So like here, I'll run it, just reads flat on everything. And I've tried all the different channels and it won't.
Is the other program still running?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
That directly connect. If that's actively using that USB port, it's probably not going to. I don't know if two things can attach to the USB port like that.
okay. I'll try turning it off. I think I've turned it off before, but I'll give it a try anyway. Alright, so now it's all turned off. I'll unplug it again, just to make sure.
Does the other one have that selection decoded protocols? Because that would be like, ASCII on a serial line, or, I2C,
Oh, okay.
addresses
Yeah,
and
this
that kind
one
of
can decode stuff, which I'm not
Can
sure if
your
maybe
other
the other
one?
one just can't.
It may
And,
not be included in it. I don't know.
oh, okay. So, do not all logic analyzer softwares have the interpretation thing?
You would think they should.
Yeah. Alright, so it's not seeing it. So I'm not sure if maybe there's... I guess I don't know.
Do you remember,
You need
Harold?
to add it. You need to add the analyzer. If you twirl down that list of the analyzers,
Oh, yeah.
right? There was a
So it
plus
seems to
icon.
have selected it already, and I can't select another one. And
Over on the
even
right-hand
so... Oh, over on the right-hand side?
where it says analyzers.
Okay.
It's not in the list.
There they are.
Wait, so what am I... What is this?
Oh, maybe that's
Guess
the
it would be
protocol
that,
analyzer
right?
that you want to use. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. It depends
Whoa.
on what you're
Yeah,
looking
but he's
at.
not getting
Okay.
signal though. I think that's what he was saying,
Yeah.
right? You're not getting no signal.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Well,
it's
how's
still
it
not
connected?
getting
Is it
anything.
connected over serial USB?
What?
Is it connected over serial USB?
Yeah.
You selected I2C up there.
Yeah. Wait. Oh. Wait, so what did I just select? Is that... I thought it was what it's decoding. Is that not what that is?
Basic signal.
I would think it would be.
Oh.
Oh, maybe. So Kareem, you're saying that this analyzer here is the actual analyzer board, and you're saying how I connect to it?
I'm guessing. I haven't used this software before.
Well,
Try adding async serial.
Okay.
so the Saley makes their own branded analyzers, right? And then there's a lot of knockoffs for those.
Yeah.
What Jack actually has is a Handtech.
Oh.
And so the first software you were showing us, Jack, was the Handtech software client.
Yeah.
And this was trying to see if the Saley logic client would read the Handtech device.
Yeah. Which I get confused because it connects to it like it is reading it, but then it won't show anything.
I think, do you remember that other software? I actually saw about a Hackster, Harold. You had, remember that open source package?
Yeah, I think what comes to mind is SIGROK. SIGROK.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
We started to set that up for you, Jack, but then at the time I think you still had the Mac, and we didn't see a SIGROK client for the ROK.
Oh, okay.
PulseView. SIGROK plus PulseView. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Now this one, I'm pretty sure as we looked at it, and I think we even tried it on some of our laptops back at the space there, and it was able to read your device, but I can't remember if it was working for the analyzer and not the scope, or the scope and not the analyzer. But this one, it's an open source package. It reads a boatload of different devices, and it has protocol decoders for all kinds of protocols.
Okay.
This is a stupid question, but you sure you have activity on those signal lines you're looking at?
Yeah. It shows it working on the original software, but yeah, like if I run it here, it will show the wave. Well,
So it's
no.
running
Oh, right, I've got to
continuously, not
swap
just
it back
like
over.
personally.
But this one, yeah, I don't remember if this one had the
Yeah, so
decoders
there.
or not.
Mm-hmm.
could be a clock of some sort. Looks like it regular.
So does it matter which one I download here? Probably anyone, right?
Well, whichever one. You're on Windows now, or what are you on?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see that list over there.
That would probably matter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So Windows now.
0.7 looks newer. Why do they have that? Oh, that's CLI. That's why. You don't
I
want
didn't
CLI.
see that. Okay.
Yeah, you want the.
You want the graphics?
I would take 042 64-bit. Why not?
Okay. That's what I did. Wait.
You're gonna need to go to those three dots there and say, "Yes, I know what I'm doing."
Yeah, sure. What's the worst that could happen?
yeah. That's a David Anderson statement. What's the worst that could happen?
As long as it's not connected to your car where it'll cause it to crash.
Yeah.
Or your defibrillator.
Or to your, yeah, the defibrillator. You don't want that either.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, virus shield at the bottom.
Yep.
Oh, thanks.
Do you really want to download?
Man, there are a ton of warning labels on this.
Yeah, it might be breaking some best practices for Microsoft.
Okay.
Shield your eyes. All MVPs on this call.
Yeah, I'm not. Hey, you know, and in all seriousness, this is my last day as an MVP. Unless I get re-upped tomorrow. Every MVP on the planet is either re-upped tomorrow, or if they've been if they're a new MVP in the last 8 or 9 months or whatever, they're okay. But if they're an old-time MVP or been previous MVPs, we all get renewed or not renewed tomorrow, and we have no idea what the requirements are or not the requirements are that gets us renewed or non-renewed.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no criteria.
Nope.
Total randomness.
There are some MVP awarded people that do have criteria in certain programs. Like I'm a Windows developer and hardware engineering guy, and in our case we don't, because MVP people tend to be pretty smart people, and if I give me a criteria, and they will just do the base level criteria, and then if they don't get in, whine about it, right? So, you know, because they'll just do the base, but that's not what they want. That's not what the program symbolizes. The program symbolizes an award for people who have been talking about their stuff, promoting their stuff, and helping people in the arena that they're awarded the MVP in, not just meeting some 5 or 6 blog posts and a couple of talks and a couple of things a year, sort of stuff. So it's a very subjective thing.
The
Well, we're hoping
analogy
for
I
you.
like to use is you have to keep running up that ever-flowing pile of sand. You know, there's a conveyor belt that dumps sand on the top, and you
Ah,
have
here
to
we
keep
go.
running up it.
Yeah.
I believe there's a Greek myth that's similar to that.
Yeah, something like that.
How about if you search for it or show it in the folder?
Yeah, is this it? I completely forgot the name. Oh, this is probably it right there.
That looks about.
The other
Yeah.
one was labeled Pulse View 2.
Not found. Okay, maybe not
That's
that
the
one.
application at the very top, Pulse View,
Yeah, Pulse View point.
or was that the installer?
0.
I'm not sure. It said it couldn't run that last one. Oh, here we go.
Top of the list.
Yep. June 30th.
Yeah, he's in download.
Another application is running. Yes. Okay, so here we go.
Oh boy,
What is that?
homework.
All right, maybe I'll work on this later.
Oh boy.
But,
Well, we figured this out.
wait, what is that?
Yeah,
Oops.
It's a driver.
Okay. What type of driver, though? Oh, it's...
No idea.
You need a putter.
Mhm.
Or a wedge.
A wedge.
You have back up your computer beforehand so you can fall back, right? If need be.
No, this is new software anyway, so.
Installation can take some time.
This is where we talk you into a problem and then we commiserate you when it fails.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, it says successful. That's
All
really
right.
not so helpful.
See, you should feel good because we're all here being co-miserating with you. You normally we just do it ourselves to ourselves. We get to do it to somebody else now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Huh.
boy. Yeah, I think
All
this
right.
is not one to accidentally fall into and get working. This is one where you might want to find a
Yeah.
Yeah, grab a little YouTube channel or something. YouTube.
how it
or-
works.
Yeah. I tried to find YouTube stuff on this, or I guess the Handtech one, and the only thing I could find were in Russian and Spanish. So,
Oh man, what does that tell you?
Mhm.
We've led you astray. That's what it says.
All right. Well, I'll let you guys go with this and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, with Spanish, you don't have to deal with Russian characters.
But
Mhm.
there should be some SIGROC tutorials though, because
Okay. Yeah.
if you can get SIGROC to recognize that Handtech, and I seem to remember looking, and there were SIGROC drivers for the Handtech 6022.
Okay.
So I think if you find those drivers and
Mhm.
just plug it in, it'll
Whoops.
something like that.
Okay.
We had it close a year ago.
Yeah.
Jack. I just
Mhm.
forget all the details.
Yeah. Me too. And that was Mac too. I was hoping it would be a bit easier with Windows.
I think I still have it installed on the laptop in my house, but it's not
Mhm.
here. Bummer. So you really want it to decode for you, huh? You want to have it do the work for you instead of just reading the ones and zeros.
I guess I could do that.
It starts somewhere.
Mhm.
SIGROC. Yeah, I have it right here. Let me see. Downloads. That was 2017 when I downloaded this. My goodness. Okay, Jack. We're wishing you luck for next week. Hopefully
Okay.
it'll go well.
Thank you.
If something surfaces, we'll send it along.
All right. Oh, when are
Okay.
we planning on opening up, by the way?
No time soon, I didn't think.
Well, we didn't have that discussion this week. And I'm guessing based on the way that Dallas County is going that it's not going to be for the next week or two at least.
Oh, okay. I thought the
anybody-
death rates were
Record
down,
today?
or not in Dallas. Is it just
Not
Texas or
Dallas
something?
Or Tarrant. I think
They had a
Texas
record.
broke its own previous
I think
record.
there are over
Yeah.
500 new cases just
Was
today.
like- right,
Death
says
rates are
hundreds.
down, but
Yeah.
they trail the infection rates by at least 2 weeks. So we're
Oh,
going to
okay.
start seeing it going back up again, pretty likely. All of the
Ah.
museums in Dallas have deferred their openings, which were planned for this next week,
Oh,
Right, it
okay.
has Ross-
and
Roxborough
indefinitely.
closed.
So we're taking a step back on that kind of stuff. I haven't heard what the
Mhm.
Makerspace is saying though.
I think they even took us when they closed the bars. You know that something's serious, right? So,
Oh yeah.
'cause I think they shut the bars down again before I left.
Mhm.
Well, the bars are shut down or will be on Friday, or last Friday or this Friday. It's hard with the news.
Yeah.
And the other thing was the restaurants are from 75% now down to 50%. So yeah, they're scaling back a little.
Okay, but this is Texas, right? Or where you guys are. So we won't have to worry. And you know how you can be confident we won't have to worry? Because they've got it nipped in the butt because they stopped tubing. Tubing is no longer allowed on the
Yeah, I
railroad.
saw that.
And that
You
is
can't
definitely
go
going
down-
to just stop it cold. No more COVID because there's no more tubing.
And
Yeah.
pontoon riding. You can't do like pontoon floaty riding anymore.
See?
Oh, that, yes.
Pontoon floating rideys. That's what the COVID crisis is all about. Everybody should know. No more pontoon
Well, they
riding.
hit pictures. You're right. And I forgot about that being closed down too, which means for kayaking, it'd be nice to go down San Marcos now. It's like-
Yeah.
I think there must be something to this because we used to go tubing in the McCollum River in California, Northern California, and the cops were always there trying to find the tube with all the beer in it. They just that was their highest priority. Like if there was two teenagers with a third tube. There had to be beer in that third tube. They would come after you. It was like we were terrorists, you know, like they were really out there to get our beer.
Unfortunately, in case of San Marcos, there is a college town there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can tell you over the years that the tubers got to be pretty bad down there.
Oh yeah, they showed film footage of the Guadalupe River, which is like the classic place to go tubing in Texas. There was a comedian who had some really good jokes about it. He said, he goes, you know, we went down to the Guadalupe and we tubed all day, and not a single person had to get out and go to the bathroom. So he say, you can always tell when somebody's going to the bathroom. You know, they'll swim up behind you, kind of quietly, make that little face, and then swim away.
Oh, man.
So Jack, it looks like Kareem has found the wiki for your device.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
There it is.
All right, I got it.
And for as much trouble as Jack is having, guys, I have an earlier version of this device. That's the earlier version is actually the one that where earlier in the year I was showing the oscilloscope traces from my robot, and it was the grandfather of this one that Jack has. So, I mean, it's got nice hardware in there. It's just a matter of finding a client that can use it.
Okay, I am so new to this. How do you bookmark in Windows?
There's a star. If you go look at the URL.
Okay, that's the bookmark one?
Top to the
Yeah.
right.
It's thing there. You'll bookmark it.
Okay. I get
Actually, you can't bookmark in Windows. It's been disabled.
Hey, I do have something to share though that I found that you guys may or may not care about. And it just occurred to me. I'm going to share out my screen real fast.
It just occurred to me that with all the bars closed in Texas, all these MVPs that are getting knocked off tonight won't be able to cry in their beer together.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You're exactly right. So
I think with the frequent bookmarks that Harold's got, he has to be an MVP.
yeah. So if you're watching my screen there as a guy, you think,
Man, I want one of those.
look at that. What I'm saying is right there that little blue star there. If you star that on yours has got an outline in it. Make that not an outline. It'll put it in your favorite worlds. Let's see here. Come on. I did not tell you to do that. That's all right. I will survive.
I'm looking up the Hamilton collection. I want some of that ceramics.
Yeah. It's $100 for that thing. I'd have been bought it for the wife and me because we, as a gift for the wife. I think she'd like those things. But anyway, what am I doing? Settings. So you might actually care about this. Windows now comes with Python on it.
Okay.
And but the Python's just a stub. On this desktop here, if I type Python, I'll get the right thing because I've already done the thing and I've installed it. The stub will take you to the Windows Store to install Python, which it gets in the way of your path, and so you say Python anything, and you get the Windows Store popping up. What the heck is all that? What you do is you go into the apps. I believe it's apps and features. App execution aliases. See these right here? Get on that. And currently, you want to type Ubuntu, you will get, or Spotify, or the Xbox Game Boy, or the WT. That's going to stick something in your path before the normal stuff to get it, make sure it's there before it actually goes and does something. In this case, my Python app installer was giving me a hard time. I had to turn it off. And that made my life a lot easier doing this ROS from source install after I found that. But that was part of my issues of screwing things up. And so anyway, that's something I could share, I guess. That's all I got on that. That may be a benefit because I'm like, well, who did this? And I said, we can tell you who did that. Turns out that Windows realized that they were the only major operating system, Linux, Windows, with Mac OS, they didn't have Python installed on it by default of some sort. And
they're using Basic plus 2, I think, aren't they?
What now?
Aren't they still using Basic plus 2 or something like that?
Basic plus 2. No, we're simply, man. Come on. We're just simple. But they realized that was their solution, was to make it easy for you to install Python. And you get the Python from the App Store. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but if you're not expecting Python from the App Store and wanting Python 3.7.5 because that's what your application needs to install and use, guess what? You don't ever get or have a choice of getting. So those are part of the things I've been fighting through and finding out that I didn't know, that I thought I knew about stuff. I'm like, what the hell? Who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah, Harold, my first wife had these 4 Blue Danube ceramic figures that were given to her by her grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And our house got broken into and they got stolen with a bunch of other stuff. And so, she was saying, I can't believe it. They stole the Blue Danube figures. And I was saying, yeah, I can't believe it either. Anyway, instead of replacing them, those got turned into a television. But anyway,
it's just funny what comes up on my Facebook some days.
I gotta say, I'm totally turned on by this Hamilton collection stuff. I think I might buy one of them Jasmine Beckett Griffin Beautiful Queen of Beauty figurines. $80.
$80.
Yeah,
not cheap.
Limited edition.
Yep.
She's holding a monkey in her lap. It's cool. I can share my screen, but I won't. But by the time I translate that with shipping into New Zealand dollars, it'd be about $150. It'd be cool.
Wow.
Big collector's item, Murray. Then you could animate it.
You would have to compete with my bunny.
Oh, right.
I don't know. Nothing to compete for that, man. That's pretty hard competition right there.
Yeah, this is made out of a New Zealand wool blanket, actually. This bunny's done a lot of traveling, by the way. He's gone to Japan and back.
Nice. All right, guys.
Yeah.
So is it time? Time to call it?
Probably.
Let's see. We've gone through everybody. Check. We tried to help somebody who failed. Check. We tried to help somebody check. And you guys have all made fun of me at least once. Yeah, we got it.
Yeah. We feel complete.
I nailed it. Okay, well done. Everybody pat yourself on the back. Way to go. Okay.
Yeah, we've done it.
Mission accomplished. Right?
Let's come back and see what we can destroy next Tuesday night. So,
Oh,
or Wednesday morning, as the case may be.
All right, you guys stay safe. Take care of yourselves.
Likewise.
We'll
Bye,
see you.
all.
Bye for now.